He's a train driver, willing to work long hours. Go.
Interpersoonlike kliëntdoeltreffendheid.
Hello and welcome to the channel. For today's adventure we're going to be visiting an old railway station frozen in time, with the last train that ever passed through here back in 2010. Usually at this point of the video I would show the world map and then zoom in on the location we were exploring, but in the spirit of preservation I'd like to keep the location and name of the station as private as possible. I know most of you watching know where it is anyway, but please refrain from mentioning the name or where it is in the comments so that we don't speed up the rate of vandalism currently happening there. The first area we're checking out is the warehouse on the eastern side of the station. Wherever you see bricks in this formation, you could know that there was some form of cooling or ventilation required in that area. Seems to be a little storeroom. Apart from the grass growing through the platform cracks, the main building seems to be reasonably intact. The side door is broken off, and someone seems to be sleeping in this little office room. When we visited this location 2 years ago, there were a lot more items still lying around, so this place is steadily being cleared out over time. Some of the main doors are still intact, and others have been forced open. We try and close as many of them as we can to try and keep the animals out. Outside is the line side platform where forklifts used to run up and down, loading the wagons. Next to the warehouse there's a building where the road vehicle maintenance used to be done, or so I assume. With the drive-over pit in the middle and the workbenches on the side, it's easy to see that this was a workshop for the road vehicles. When you compare this to the photographs I took 2 years ago, you can easily see how much it's deteriorated since then. The railway owned a lot of track inspection vehicles and maintenance vehicles and breakdown vehicles, all of which would have received services and repairs in this facility. A little ensuite storage room now stands empty. From there we move a little bit more west to the little fueling depot adjacent to the workshop. Originally there would have been fuel tanks within that yard, fenced off with heavy duty steel. As we make our way further west we get to the passenger platform and carriage and wagon depot building. As per the name, this building was built in support of the carriages and wagons, basically all the rolling stock of the line. Precious little remains inside these buildings, which makes it difficult to guess exactly what the building was used for. Probably a storeroom, a basic workshop, and some toilets. There might have been an office inside here, with cabinets and files and records and logs. At least we can tell that whoever worked here would have been able to have a lacquer shower after every day at work. It might have been a dirty business. The toilets, however, are found in a separate building a distance away from the depot. A short walk over the roadway and we get to the platform. Now completely overgrown, back in the day this platform was used to facilitate getting passengers on and off the train, with a cubicle built of bricks in the middle and a roof overhead to protect them from the rain. This is where the passengers would wait for the next train. A lonely fruit wagon stands derelict at the end of this platform. Let's go have a look. A large number of these wagons were used on this railway line back in the day to transport fruits from the rural areas to the city centres. Oddly enough, this one's locked, which is a rare sight to see as everything usually gets broken open straight away. Curiosity gets the better of me and I find a little hole in which to poke my camera through. So this is a rare sight indeed. You see these galvanized plate panels? Those are used to keep the polystyrene insulation in place, which keeps the wagon cool for its journey, and usually the first thing to be stripped out by the vandals. From the passenger platform we keep moving west until we reach another feature that usually doesn't survive into present day on the stations on this line. Most of the stations on this line used to have livestock loading docks, but this is one of the few surviving examples, with most of them being cut up for scrap. There's the kraal where the animals would wait before getting loaded, and you could either load them onto a railway wagon or onto a truck on the other side. From the loading dock we keep moving west past a couple of old fruit wagons until we get to a building which was very unique for this depot. You see, this station was treated as a halfway mark between the 2 points of the railway line, which meant that sometimes train crews would need to overnight. Built in the style of the day, this hostel featured 24 rooms for train crews to overnight in. To the left as you enter would be the ablution block, fitted with toilets, urinals, showers and even 2 baths, for those drivers that had a really heavy day.
Wow. Nie stukkend geskop is nie.
To my utter surprise, the toilets are still intact, as that's usually the first thing to get broken by the vandals. Walking across the reception area to the right, we enter what I can assume to be a living room. I imagine there being a kettle and a few couches, maybe a table, a couple of lamps, and of course this odd thing in the wall.
Ek dink hierdie was 'n vuurmaakplek, my liefie. Jy kon 'n vuurtjie daar binne gemaak het dan. Skoorsteen uit. Net vir 'n bietjie hitte.
We keep going to find a broom cupboard, and then a very odd room indeed. The walls have louvered panels built into them, with shelves all around, and then the goose makes another discovery.
Oh wow, I don't know.
So clinker is the product of unburnt impurities in the coal, and in this case it's obviously used to close up those louvers. Moving straight into the building from the entrance, we get to the long halls and the living quarters.
Yo.
A quick walkthrough reveals that there's not much of interest, as most of the furniture has already been removed from the rooms. This room has now acquired some ivy, which is its only occupant. I can only assume that this entrance originally looked out into something a bit more than just dense bush. And if anyone out there has got any photographs of this place in its heyday, especially on the inside, I would really love to see what the rooms look like. And these front rooms, how they were kitted out. The only photograph I managed to get was this one, but I'm sure some of my viewers have got more detailed photographs of this building. Now moving further west from the hostel, we get to the loco depot. And of all the photographs I found online of this station back in the day, 90% of them were taken within this area. That is because there was always a high concentration of beautiful steam locomotives waiting on standby for their next trip out. This water column at the loco depot is exactly double the capacity of the one that is at the station. And I'm happy to see that the shed building is still intact and standing, complete with its original inspection pits from back in the day. Basic repairs and maintenance was carried out regularly at this depot facility. This angle reminds me of a few photographs I saw online. This little building to the right used to be the Loco Depot building, with a workshop and a storeroom and everything you would need to carry out basic repairs and maintenance on the locomotives. Apart from some basic furniture, it now stands completely empty, removing all need for anybody to try and break into it. From there, it's a short walk to get to our next point of interest, the iconic coal stage. Very few coal stages survive to present day, being used for only steam locomotives. Most of them were broken down and scrapped when electric and diesel power took over. I could probably climb up directly, but I chose to walk around and walk up the slight incline of the coal stage, the way the trains used to do it back in the day. All along this Loco Depot, features remain that can be recognized in old photographs. If you needed any of the clinker that I spoke about earlier, this pit is where you would get it. This is where the steam trains clean their fires. Getting up the little bank is not as elegant as I expected, and I unintentionally alert the local canine security to my presence. The layout is that everything to the left of the coal stage is the Loco Depot, and then to the right is a single railway track that runs out of the station over a small bridge and onto the next station. The coal stage is very much still as it was built, with the one exception being the wooden walkway on the outside, which has rotted away in the meantime. A small pile of fine leftover coal remains in the middle of the coal stage. At the far end of the depot, the last line terminates in what used to be a turntable. When I say used to be a turntable, lucky for us, this is not a sad story. You can see the foundation of the old turntable still there, but in fears that vandals would carry away all the steel for scrap, a decision was made to remove this turntable, and it now resides along many other preserved items from this railway line. Just beyond, you can see the small bridge on the line out of the station. I managed to obtain a few photographs off social media of when the turntable was removed. Now that we've covered all the ancillary buildings, it's time to move on to the main station building. As I've mentioned, the staggered brick design was used for ventilation and for cooling, which means that this room was probably used to store milk. Most major stations had one of these rooms right next to the main station building. Various efforts have been made to close off the station building completely, but all that does is just encourages vandals to try harder to break in. Although some of the furniture remains, you can see the station getting in worse and worse state from when it was originally looted shortly after closure. And some wildlife have even chosen to call this place home now.
Was jy net?
Electrical cables and copper pipes are the first to go, and then just over time systematically everything disappears.
Sê jy weer?
Someone had told the goose that if she stands in this pose near bats that they would come to her. Obviously these are the wrong kinds of bats. I remember as a small kid the train stopping here and the train crew using this room to prepare dinner in before sleeping on the train, which was parked next to the platform right outside that big double door. Among the strewn papers, sometimes you do find some interesting reads. The gap where the station safe was ripped out of the wall. I found a document showing a 3-bedroom house in Lorraine, Port Elizabeth going for 65,000 Rand in 1988. Here's a logbook of a goods train with all the goods carried on the wagons. Who remembers the old PX containers that were carried from town to town? Here's the price list.
Hoor nou diese selflessness.
Die stasiemeester se kantoor sowel as my kantoor is elk toegerus met 'n telefoon. Aangesien hier nie meer 'n stasiemeester is nie, is die telefoon in sy kantoor nie meer nodig nie. Die telefoon in my kantoor kan vervang word met 'n gewone goedkoper telefoon. Dit sal meebring dat Spoornet minder huur per maand aan telekoms sal betaal. Die huidige huur vir die 2 telefone is R235 per maand.
I get my hands on a list of weekly available positions on the railway. Let's see what vacancies there were in 1988.
He's electrician level 3 in Pangini. He's a train driver, Mason's Mall, willing to work long hours. Train driver Rustenburg. Depot manager in Vryheid. He's a chief shedman in Richards Bay. Senior engineering technician Saldanha.
I find a newsletter for the Cape Midlands Spoornet area from November 1994. If anybody wants to read it, just put your settings up and pause the screen. I'm uploading this in high detail. I come across some children's drawings of trains, and they're pretty good.
Leave.
I'm especially proud of Vickers. Seems like he predicted the future. Just track, no trains. And then suddenly I stumble across the station's Lost and Found book. First, not thinking a lot of it, but then the entries in this book starts at 1967 with someone having lost a bag of sugar. Let's see what the goose thinks of this.
Ek het datum.
1967. Jessie, kyk hoe mooi het hulle geskryf.
Check die kontras.
Ai. Geen trots nie, nee. Jessie, teenoor dit. Jessie. En hierdie, wanneer was hierdie?
In 86.
70. Ek dink nie. 50 years ago.
Sometimes I'm tempted to spend a day in the station just cleaning up and going through all the documents, as there really are some genuinely interesting bits of history here. Such as this poor driver's details that have been left out here for all to see. I'm always tempted to clean up a little bit. I feel very guilty for stepping on all the documents that are on the floor, but there really isn't room to step anywhere else.
Van 10 rand per dag, wat betaalbaar is.
I find an old train register from April 1992. And these documents include the locomotive numbers for the trains that came into the station during that time. Each locomotive has got a unique number, like this one, 007. I make sure that I repackage the document exactly as I find it. Then I discover something new.
Okay. Try hierdie sê, 3 keer vinnig. Interpersoonlike kliënt doeltreffendheid telefoon
kliënt doeltreffendheid.
Okay, kom maar. Sekereer. Sê vir my, interpersoonlike kliënt doeltreffendheid telefoon etiket en tegniek. Go.
Interpersoonlike kliënt doeltreffendheid. Interpersoonlike kliënt doeltreffende telefoon etiket en tegniek.
Doeltreffendheid.
Ek het dit gesê, het ek nie. Interpersoonlike kliënt doeltreffendheid telefoon etiket en tegniek.
Jy mag nie asemhaal nie.
Mag nie asemhaal nie.
Interpersoonlike kliënt doeltreffendheid telefoon etiket en tegniek.
Interpersoonlike kliënt doeltreffendheid telefoon etiket en tegniek.
Well done. Interpersoonlike kliënt doeltreffendheid telefoon tegniek.
Wat is dit nou? Dit is telefoon manners. O,
Dis hoe
dankie, dis dodgy.
Dis hoekom mense back in the day mooi geskryf het, want hulle het actually
Hulle het etiket gehad
hulle het
en tegniek.
dit
Hy is die dusie ook met teetyd.
Anytime is tea time.
O, is dit 'n kursus? Kom ons kyk wat sê hulle. O, hierso, kom ons kyk nou. Vertel die kelder dat biefstuk rou is en dat die bediening swak is. Kliënt voel vies en voel miskien dat hy of sy geïgnoreer word. Kliënt behoefte om 'n gaar biefstuk te hê en meer aandag te ontvang. Kelner leun oor na die kliënt.
Luister saggies maar.
Sorry. Gaan braai jy 'n biefstuk? Kan die kliënt kan sy of haar hande nie stil hou nie. Vra of die trein betyds sal wees.
Hulle vas.
Sit op jou hande, Tannie. Kliënt voel gespanne om die versekering te kry dat hy of sy betyds by sy bestemming gaan wees. Dis haar behoefte.
Glimlag en kyk die kliënt in die oë. Die trein is nooit betyds nie.
What were you thinking? Verseker die kliënt dat die trein nie betyds sal wees nie. Kliënt ontspan. Okay, dis hoekom die mense so vriendelik was daai tyd. Alles geleer. Ons vat hierdie boek en ons gee dit vir die volgende persoon wat misluk is met ons.
This room housed the van Skoor machine, which was used to clock all the employees in and out of work every day. It too has disappeared in the last 2 years.
Gaan langsam.
Next to the main station building, there's a second, smaller building, which I assume is for a caretaker or a superintendent to stay in. It's got toilet facilities, a little heater in the room, maybe a waiting area for crew.
Aha, toilets.
Hier is 'n visdammetjie gewees. Ons 'n foto van ek en my pa en die hele crew wat hier so braai op die stoep hier so. Ja, ek sal vir jou wys van tyd. Long, long ago, when the train still ran here, we had barbecues in this exact spot. All the volunteer train crew would remain with the train while the passengers were bussed off to luxury hotels. And we would sleep on the station or on the train to ensure that nothing happened to it overnight. Another quick snap from the platform where we were dishing up some dinner. All the remaining wagons that have been left at this station are basically condemned to decay, as there are no longer any locomotives to remove them or move them somewhere else. The one thing that works in this station's favor is that the area is still inhabited by people, which makes it a little bit more difficult for the vandals to carry everything away, like they've done in some of the other places. As I've already said in the beginning of the video, I'm going to try and keep the name and the location of the station secret. I don't really want to reveal it on the channel and be blamed for whatever vandalism happens after that. I am aware of the fact that 90% of my viewers will know exactly where this place is, but please refrain from revealing it in the comments, as there might be some people watching the video that might not have such good intentions as the rest of us. So please understand, I will be removing any and all comments that include the station's name or any references to where the station is located. Having just said that, guys, I love reading your comments. I try and reply on all of them. I love reading the stories that you share with me afterwards, so please don't hesitate to share your experience, as long as it doesn't give away the station's location. Lastly, guys, if you liked this video, please hit the like button. It's the only way that I know what you guys like, so I can keep making those kinds of videos. And if you want to jump on the exploration train, hit the subscribe button to be informed of future videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.